Kurt, for this episode of PBT Extra, we got to talk about Game 5. What a performance by Andrew Wiggins. Back-to-back, he actually just had a double-double the game before this. But this double-double was a little bit different. 26 points, 13 rebounds, and altogether dominant. What did you think about the Warriors taking the lead 3-2?
On a night that they needed it, because Steph Curry, for the first time in 233 games, didn't hit a three during the game. Boston did a better job on him, but he also he missed a couple of things he normally hits. But the other guys stepped up in that game, and Wiggins led them. He has had a big role all series guarding Jason Tatum, and then, 26 points? He stepped up when they needed him to score in this one. He's had good assists every game. He's really played well. And Corey, isn't it a tribute to fit? Isn't it a tribute to putting the right guy in the right situation? I mean, this was a number one draft pick who struggled with the weight of being the number one draft pick, being the franchise, cornerstone franchise savior reputation in Minnesota. But he gets here, he looks great. He looks fantastic in these finals.
Yeah, I mean, he's 27 years old. So he was born in 1995. And this is the crazy thing about the NBA these days, and you and I talk about this all the time. To me, the NBA rookie deal is college because no one's in college for very long. So this is his 8th season in the league. So it's like, if you actually discount everything and really think about this is like his 4th year. He's 27. He's entering into his prime, I think, physically, and he found his perfect fit and role. And I think there's a couple of things that we can learn from this, just if we're going to dissect this. I think one is the draft itself, how we evaluate talent, I always think it's like a little bit of a toss-up, but particularly now since it's like my friends who played softball at Notre Dame, they were committing in 8th grade, to go where they're going to play college. And as an 8th grader, some of this is going to change in the next 4 years in high school. How do you know you're going to commit on a scholarship to go play somewhere? It's the same thing. You're asking, hey, as an 18-year-old kid, I'm going to draft you, and I think you're going to pan out when you're 27. That is a really hard even for the most talented talent evaluators. It's very difficult to do, Kurt. But for this one, we see not only maybe not a franchise player, and that's okay. There's only a handful. And, every team has to have a franchise player. But the reality is there's only a handful of guys, maybe under 10, who actually fit that mold. And every other team is just kind of having someone fill that role for them and paying them that franchise money. But he has fit in beautifully as that kind of, like I said, like a Scottie Pippen kind of guy for them. And he's great at it.
Yeah, if you want some real entertainment someday, if you just, people at home, if you're just bored, go find the Andrew Wiggins high school mixtapes, and you can see why he gets drafted number one. He jumps over guys, out of buildings. He is a crazy athlete, but I don't, having the athletic skill and knowing how to hone that into playing the NBA game or playing a high level of any sport, the mental aspect, sometimes that just takes longer. And you're right. I think that this is a situation where he doesn't have the pressure of being the number one, frankly, the number 2 option most nights. Even though he's been the second best Warrior in the playoff or in the finals, he doesn't have that pressure on him night to night. So he's capable of these games, but he doesn't have to carry that load what you're asking your superstars to do. And you're right. I think there's maybe we could debate it, but 10-ish who you could build a championship team around. Those guys have to bring it. If you're Durant or LeBron or Curry or something, every night, it is a lot to ask to bring that every night. Maybe Wiggins doesn't do that, but if he brings that, like I said, there's 7 games. If he brought it for one and won them a game, that might be enough to get them a title.
Look, any role in a championship team, I'll take it. I don't care if it's waiting hours on a bench. I'm your guy. Sign me up for a contract. And I think when you think about this idea, it's not like we're belittling the role here that he's playing. He had a 26-point double-double in a finals game. I mean, that's amazing. But you're right. When you have different, let's say the number one guy, the franchise player, if he's a bona fide franchise player, like a Steph Curry, what that means is essentially you're like the foundation of the team, right? Everything's built on you, and you have to support how many stories, of concrete above you and steel and all these things. So that is a hard job, and not everyone can be that, which is why it's such a few and far between. But then the number 2 option, you're thinking, okay, Clay, you can have great nights, but we need you to be mostly like a closer, maybe give you 25 points on average, but I need you to be the assassin, right? Then that third matchup, we're getting down the line here, and Andrew Wiggins number 3. So imagine your third. Okay, Marcus Smart's already covered. Jason Tatum's already. Like who's going to cover the number 3 guy? And by the way, he's a former number 1 draft pick who can score at will. And that's when you just get into that's a mismatch problem. And guys like Andrew Wiggins thrive in the playoffs because of that, because it's all matchups. And you're telling me your third best defender is going to guard Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah, and he brought something that the Warriors needed, which is, as they've gotten older, and we talked about it in the series, they're not the more athletic team in this series. They're not the bigger team. But Wiggins plays that role for them, right? He is the quintessential physical specimen on the wing, right? He's 6'7" and long and athletic and jumps out of the building. They needed that on both ends of the floor to compensate for that. Like Klay Thompson's not, he's a great athlete, but he's never quite been that guy. And plus, he's not quite himself. That's not the kind of athlete Steph Curry is. They needed that. And they've got it coming up with Kuminga. They have this great athlete in Wiseman. Moody's coming up. Like they've got more of this coming, but those guys weren't ready for this stage. Wiggins, he's been ready for this stage. And just being in the building, watching him talk game after game in a practice, you can see his confidence building. Like, I've got this. I can do this. This is not beyond my grasp.
And that's the difference between Minnesota and Golden State. Yeah, and this is another thing that's like the third little alchemy that if you're going to have an ingredient, this is the third thing. We talk about the draft evaluation, and then 2, the role. And then the third one is, you have a Hall of Famer in Steph Curry believing in you, huge. Steve Kerr is giving you chances, and he believes in you, and he's defending you in the media, huge. All these Hall of Famers around you, building you up, and they're giving you time. And I think there's so much power in the tongue as far as like life and death's concerned, and we see that, especially when you're in a place like Sacramento or Minnesota, especially when he was in Minnesota. Every day looking at the media, every day reading those articles. Is he going to pan out? Is he a bust? Those things weigh on you for years. Right? So to be able to be in a positive environment where you're no longer, the one being attacked verbally all the time, I think just like, and I know we can't this is like a small thing, but it's not, because think about if you tell a child they're not very good at something, they're going to believe you over time versus like a supportive environment. And I do think Golden State is one of the most supportive environments in the NBA, and I think that's a great thing for Wiggins because we've seen him flourish. And you don't always use that word flourish when you're coming around NBA teams and former number 1 overall draft picks where they could have gone either way.
No, I think you see this in every sport, though. There is something to be said for the environments that get people to thrive. I think you can do it a little bit differently, but Belichick was so good at putting guys in a role where they played to their strengths. And I think that's sort of what has happened with Steve Kerr. He's got guys playing roles and playing to their strengths, but also there is support. There is joy there. They are having fun doing this. And that's not every NBA environment. It's not.
Because at the end of the day, this is someone's workplace. And that's why I always remind myself, I'm like, this is their office. And imagine going to work every day and everyone is, not happy, not having fun. You're probably not going to have a very good production as far as output's concerned, right? So I always remind myself, okay, if this is someone's office and people are happy to be there, and they're, it's kind of like that mercurial quality that makes you love working at a certain place. It also translates to the sports. Like, why wouldn't it? But one role that I've absolutely loved seeing play out is Jordan Poole. And I know we've talked about him. I thought he was an X factor. I think you believe you said it. He just brings in energy, doesn't he? What about that buzzer beater?
2 of them. 2 of them.
The finals.
But the one in Game 5 really mattered more in terms of like helping swing the momentum. This was the first third quarter Boston had really controlled. They came out and played. They were down 12. They had taken the lead. And the Warriors pushed back a couple plays. Before that, they'd made a 3. But that buzzer beater 3 was part of a wave of momentum within the building. Warriors fans were getting nervous because they realized it was going to Boston for Game 6 behind was trouble. You could sense the tension in the building. And when he hit that 3, it was a release. And they kind of carried that into the fourth quarter. He has been big in that way, and he's held up okay. Look, he's getting targeted defensively every time he steps on the floor. and he's there. I mean, they target Curry a little, but the second pool's out there, and he started to hold up all right. Their team defense is held up all right, which is something I think that gets overlooked in the series. Because we talked about how great, Boston's great defense is great, and they're so much better when Robert Williams is on the floor, and we can go through all that. Warriors were the second best defensive team in the league, and they have played really great defense in this series as a team. And Poole gets beat, but you're gonna help drive Jason Tatum into a crowd, and we're gonna make him play in a crowd and make decisions. And the Celtics just aren't thriving. They're not making positive decisions. Like, they're not making the right reads. They're not just powering up and making the shots consistently. They just go through stretches where that pressure gets to them.
And the thing that I've found kind of mind-blowing, just the sophistication of these lineups. The thing is, when Jordan Poole comes in the game, you'll see Draymond still out there, and you'll see Klay still out there. And Klay's those are the best defenders. So you think, okay, there's still help. That's the one thing. It's not like they're just throwing Jordan Poole out to the wolves and saying, hey, you're on your own. So I love the way that Steve Kerr's giving him help defensively.
Yeah, their schemes have been great. They've been pre-switching and a lot of stuff. I think that their defense has been underrated because we talk a lot. And look, it is the stat. It is when the Celtics get to 16 turnovers, they lose. I think they've lost all but one game in these playoffs. When they have fewer than that, they're like 8-2 or whatever it is. Like they don't lose when they don't turn the ball over. And we tend to lay that at the feet of the Celtics. And look, they've made some bad passes and bad decisions, but the pressure of the Warriors defense and the depth of the Warriors defense and how they're on a string and Bielitsa's out there playing good defense, which is like nobody expected that. This is not a guy known for his defense, but he can be a little more physical in the playoffs, and he's a big guy. And they've been able to use all that to really stymie Boston's offense.
And you mentioned Klay Thompson. There have been times this playoffs where you think, okay, is he back to full form? You mentioned he isn't quite himself yet. What makes you say that?
Defensively, he's been a lot closer, but offensively, he's still not quite. He looked better again. At Game 5, we looked closer. He looks a little better every game. I'm still not sure his shot is all the way there. His ability to create. He's got that Curry-like ability to give the ball up, relocate, and get a little space and shoot. And that he just doesn't seem as quick. It's just half a step slow. And I think that's just time back from the injury. I think he gets closer to that next year. He came back midseason or pretty late in the season, frankly. And it just takes a while to get, Achilles and ACL. It's going to take a while to get your legs back under you.
And we've been talking so much about Golden State. It's almost like we're kind of forgetting, well, who are they playing? Remember, this is the Boston Celtics. They went to 2-7 series to get here. They beat the Bucks and the Heat. And we know Jason Tatum has a spectacular performance in his bag. We know that. What is your prediction for Game 6 in Boston, mind you? Where, remember, they had T-shirts last game in Boston with the 18th banner blank. They are ready for this.
They are. It's going to be, I'm kind of liking the Warriors a little in that, look, this is a tough setting. This is a tough place to play. The crowds are going to be nuts. You're going to have to close out Boston on the road. And by the way, they didn't do that against Memphis. They didn't do that at all these playoffs. So they've had a chance to close out on the road. The Warriors haven't done it, but this feels a little different. This isn't 3-1, we go home for Game 6, right? There's a Game 7 looming. Weird things happen in Game 7s, Corey. If you're the Warriors, you want to avoid the randomness of, it's what we love about the NCAA tournament, right? Hey, the 12 can beat the 5, right? Like, we love that randomness. If you're the Warriors, you'd like to avoid that randomness at all costs. I think that they're going to come out. They just have the poise to handle that moment, to handle the pressure and winning on the road. And I'm not sure when they make a run, because they will, and they're going to have angry Steph Curry, who's mad after going over 8 to deal with. What are they going to have the poise? I'm just not sure the Celtics are going to have. This is going to be a game where they're really going to be tested, and I'm just not convinced they're going to be able to withstand that pressure in this moment. I think they will down the line. I think this is a future championship team, but I think this might be the lesson they learned in this one.
This is their Joe Burrow moment.
Yeah, I think that I know the Warriors can handle this moment. I have not seen the Celtics be able to handle this moment yet. We'll find out.
It's interesting. And when I was watching that game, a couple of things stood out to me. Game 5. One, you're right. I mean, Steph Curry not making a three, I think he might take that personally. So game 6, I would be a little frightened. The second thing I thought was really interesting was it was the first time ever, like this playoffs, that I've seen Boston look tired, like aged. It's crazy because it was almost like I never noticed the wrinkles. You know how sometimes you take a job and then you get out of the job and everyone's like, man, it looks like he was aged 20 years in that job, right? That's what I felt like with Boston this playoff series, because I saw they were celebrating Steve Kerr and Curry. Everyone was Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins laughing on the bench, and then of course, meanwhile in Boston, right? It goes to the Boston bench, and I saw like age on Marcus Smart. Like Jason Tatum looked older, and Jaylen Brown older, and I thought this team may have lost their youth and vision. And that was like, I wonder if that image was the breaking point for me, because I knew that they were one of the most tenacious. Like, we're not going to back down. We're never out, and their poise under pressure has been remarkable against exceptional opponents. But I think they may have lost the will right there in that one moment in Game 5. And I think I'm gonna change my prediction after seeing that bit of data. I think it's gonna go Golden State. It's gonna end it.
The other thing I noticed in that game was, look, 7-game physical series against the Bucks, 7-game physical series against the Heat. Tatum and Brown played the entire second half. They both topped out more than 40 minutes in that game, and they were hitting the front of the rim by the end. And it's not a shock. I don't know. I feel for Udoka because I don't know where you get them rest that doesn't hurt you, right? Like, you've got to play your best players, but if they're wearing down, if they're hitting the front of the rim with their jumpers, if their legs get a little flat, it's bad. It's bad.
Remember early in the game, that's what in the interview he said. We took Jason Tatum out a few seconds earlier to give him rest. I mean, they're looking for 7 seconds of rest, like 20 seconds of rest for Tatum.
I think, by the way, you can do that a little more in the finals. You can watch. They'll take guys, the smart coaches will take guys out right before the TV timeouts are so much longer. Like, if you go to games regularly, you're there. Like, we have time to do like the dance team and like 2 other things during the timeout as entertainment. Those kind of longer breaks, like if you time it out, you can get I can do that. And then the quarter comes and I can get Tatum or Curry or whoever, and get them like 15 minutes of real-time rest and 3 minutes of game time just because of how it shakes out.
So we'll see what happens in Game 6, but now it's time for my personal favorite part of every episode, PBT Picks. So let's start with business first before we get into the fun stuff. Which organizations or teams are you expecting to make some big moves this offseason?
It's going to be interesting. I'll tell you, the team I'm watching more and more, I think Phoenix is going to make some moves. It looks like DeAndre Ayton will be on the move and be somewhere else. What they get back for him, and how do they kind of restructure that team? They don't want to pay him the max. Let's say he goes to Toronto, but they get OJ Anunoby back, and you get a long athletic wing to go. I'm curious Phoenix is right there, but their window is short, obviously, with Chris Paul at his age. They've got Devin Booker, they've got other young players, but how do they start retooling for next season while not losing, while having some long-term vision? I'm really curious to see what direction Phoenix goes this summer. They're going to make moves. The other one, I know we've talked about this, there's changes coming to Utah, and I don't know what they're going to look like, but there are changes coming to Utah, starting with the coach. They're starting the new coaching search, but beyond that, there'll be a lot of changes. That's the other one. I mean, these are 2 teams in Phoenix's case, certainly a championship core, certainly a good playoff core in Utah, and I'm not sure. Like, those are 2 teams going to be making some big moves.
I'm going to go back, I'm wearing orange. I'm going to go back to Phoenix really quick because I think Phoenix is in the same place that the Milwaukee Bucks were in a couple years ago. Do you remember how, Coach Bud won Coach of the Year? They were sitting around the top of the Eastern Conference just hanging out. It looks like they pitched a tent, just had a cooler on the beach in the one spot for a while. but it didn't work. They got Drew Holiday, and then that was the one piece right there. And I think Grayson Allen also was a really big good fit for them too. They had a couple pieces, but Drew was the piece.
He's the piece.
He needed. I think the Suns are there. I think that, and this would be, in my personal opinion, after like a post Chris Paul. I think right now they're in that like, okay, you got us here. You taught us how to be professional. We know we got the Joe Burrow moment in the Super Bowl loss. Like we have the NBA Finals. Devin Booker's your guy. You're going to make a decision on Aiden, which we've kind of been eagerly awaiting this decision for years now, because the rookie, he's on a rookie deal. Didn't pan out. If he ends up going, that's fine. Now, where does the organization go from here? And I think this part where they're going to take a step backwards to go forward is exactly what we saw in Milwaukee, right? They didn't get the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference anymore. That's okay. They won a championship. Like I take that any day of the week. And I think we also might see a little bit of a misstep too, because remember we saw with the Bucks they tried to go for Bogdanovich first.
Right.
So I feel like and same with the Warriors. They went Oubre first, right? And they're like, Wiggins, right? So I feel like we might see a little tinkering in the next 2 or 3 seasons. But it's definitely, I think Devin Booker is the next heir apparent there.
Yeah, no. Look, this team is close, and they will be close for a while. And I'm with you. I'm curious how they evolve this, and especially if they're not going to do it with Ayton. And I get it. You might not want to pay him max money, but if you're not, how are you replacing what he does bring? Because he does bring something.
Yes, and we're in the midst of the WNBA as well. And one of the dominating headlines there is Brittany Griner, because the Phoenix Mercury just went to the finals last year. And Diana Taurasi, they're currently sitting at 5-9. They just lost last night. And Diana Taurasi, before the game, says getting Brittany home is the number 1 priority. And we've been hearing, Kathy Engelbert as well discuss how they're working with the State Department. So that's one of the major things to follow in the WNBA. But what else, basketball-wise, are you watching this summer? Are you watching the WNBA? Are you ready for the draft? Like, what does it look like to be Kurt England right now?
Yeah, I think Brittany Griner's. There were the Warriors and Celtics came out with Brittany Griner shirts before one of the practices. I think the players are invested in this, and not just in the NBA and the WNBA. And I think there's a lot of momentum towards it. I'm not a political scientist. I'm not going to pretend to be. It's a tough spot being stuck in the middle of a geopolitical tug of war, and I feel for her because this is a really rough situation. But I will watch a lot of WNBA. By the way, not Brittany Griner, out in Las Vegas, they bring in Becky to be coach, and A'ja Wilson might be playing the best basketball of her career, and that team is tearing people up. I'll be watching a lot of WNBA, but the Aces look really good to start the season. And beyond that, I will be at Summer League. I'll do that. We'll watch WNBA through the meat of the summer, and then also don't forget EuroLeague is there. Like the EuroLeague kicks off with Jokic with Doncic in September, so that's always pretty entertaining. But I look forward to a lot of WNBA games this summer. In fact, I want to get out and see the Aces when I'm in Vegas for Summer League. They've got one in there I can squeeze in.
No, I think A'ja Wilson is one of the most talented players in the game. Period. I live in New York, so I need to get out to see Sabrina Ionescu. I watched her on TV, and Sabrina just had a triple-double. And it's kind of crazy that the short list she's on a list with Candace Parker. It's just crazy. Candace Parker just got her second triple-double, I think in May. Age 36. Sabrina got drafted in 2020. So we're starting to see a pretty dramatic, I think, shift in just what she brings to the game, which is so exciting. So to have Sabrina, although her team's not playing very well, and I love this quote. Oh my goodness, I love this quote, Kurt. This is why Sabrina is like one of my favorite players. She said after the loss, she got the triple-double, and this is what she said. And I quote, "I don't care about the triple-double. We didn't win. I to do my part, continue to get better every single day, continue to learn from my teammates, from this coaching staff, info." Of course, you have to root for her. So Sabrina and A'ja, I think this is going to be A wonderful season.
So much good talent in the WNBA right now. It's a beautiful brand of basketball, but like the talent level just goes up year after year after year. And I think more and more people are starting to recognize it and recognize like the quality of basketball being played.
And I can't wait for Summer League. That starts July 7th. And I know you're going to be there. Last summer, my brother, Justin Robinson, got to play for the Spurs. He wore number 50, which is cool because that's my dad's number. So the 50 Robinson flew again. So, and I'll definitely be watching Summer League regardless of what's going to happen. But it was really fun to watch him last summer.
Yeah, that's a great environment. And for fans, if you're a real big NBA fan, it's worth coming out one summer. Yeah. Yes, you can fry an egg on the blacktop out in Vegas in July. It's hot, but you're not going to get to watch NBA level players in a 5,000 seat gym like you can at Summer League very often. It's a great experience.
It feels like high school. It seemed like, I was watching on TV. I'm like, this seems like a high school AAU tournament.
This is if you played against the, I don't know, I'm out here in Southern California, the modern days of the world, the really nice high school gyms. Yeah, it's pretty much that. Like it's a beautiful facility, but it's a really nice high school gym, really.
And one of my favorite things, because in New York, I'll go to the parks, the playgrounds, and I'll watch basketball there. And like to me, that's akin to what I grew up in Texas with Friday Night Lights. Like you'll see everybody from the whole neighborhood, like grandparents are there, high schoolers are there, like everyone's there watching basketball. People are standing on the court. And I feel like Summer League kind of taps into that a little bit, where you have like NBA players coming to watch the guys they just drafted. It's like this whole thing. You're interviewing them, like, yeah, we're going to dinner afterwards. It just feels like a community, like high school football, or it feels like the playground here in New York. It's awesome.
That is.